Are you ready to transform your sound from good to great? Well, join me as we unbox and test some popular podcast microphones that could elevate your audio game no matter if you are just starting out or running a full-scale podcast. Are you using the right mic for your situation? Is it time to upgrade? We're going to help you figure out the answers to those questions and more on today's video. Walter Storholt back with you for another video. Thanks for joining us today. So today we're talking about microphones, and we're going to try and keep things at an informative level, but also keep it a little bit basic and not get too lost in the weeds. So first of all, before we look at the different microphones that we're going to be discussing, which will be three primarily on today's episode, I want to first talk about why it's so important to have good audio quality. Well, the first reason that I always point out to people is that it's professionalism. Yes, anybody can grab a phone and host a show these days, or pick up a cheap microphone, or even use your kid's gaming headset to record some sort of audio into your phone or computer and say that you've got a podcast. The accessibility has never been better for people to be able to kind of get into the hosting audio media game. However, you still want to look professional to your clients. Most of the people we work with are small business owners, and they want to present a professional appearance to the audience. Audio quality is part of that professional appearance. So if you like dressing in a suit when you meet with clients one-on-one, if you like to do other video content that you've done perhaps in the past, looking your sharpest and not in gym clothes, well, then you kind of want to carry that same mentality into the audio side of things. And so we try to help people find what's the most professional sounding audio that we can get while keeping price a reasonable concern. So we'll discuss a little bit of that on today's video. Also, better audio quality is going to have people listen to your show longer. You are going to lose audience members if your audio doesn't sound any good. It's why when people have sent us their own recordings, and sometimes there might be something that's gone wrong in that recording, we'll often tell them, we're sorry, we don't think that you should air this show. The audio quality just isn't good enough. Yeah, people can kind of hear what it says, but that's not good enough. There's so much content out there for people to consume these days that if we give them bad audio quality, they're going to go seek the information that they're looking for elsewhere from a different source, one that's got better quality. So you're going to retain listeners at a better clip if you have some good, solid audio quality. Also, it's just going to, in general, make sense that you're going to have better comprehension for what you're talking about. I used to listen to this sports broadcast all the time. It was like a sports talk show, and for whatever reason, they just weren't very good at mixing the audio levels, especially of guests that they would have on the show. The hosts always sounded good, but they just didn't put much effort into making the guests sound good. And when the guests would call in, they'd be on the phone. I'd be driving down the road trying to listen to the show. And even after cranking the volume knob up as loud as I possibly could, I still couldn't really comprehend or understand what the guest was saying. So my choices were to basically listen to gibberish or go find something else to listen to. And that's usually what would happen. So we want people to be able to comprehend all this hard work that we're putting into to communicate to our listeners and to our potential clients. Lastly, why audio quality matters. Well, what about video? If you have the video content, do you need as good of audio quality? Technically, no. You'll often notice that when you watch things on YouTube or even television, the audio quality is not quite as good as what you might hear in radio. That's because you have lips and visuals to help go along with what's being talked about. But you know what? Clean audio, good audio, audio you can comprehend is still going to help a video stand out from other videos, other competition. Just think about it. When you watch a movie or a TV show, do you ever have trouble hearing the dialogue? Isn't that the most annoying thing ever? Let's not be that. Let's put out clean, good audio that people can hear us and understand us. And so you got to make a little bit of investment and make some good choices along the way to make all that happen. So let me tell you about the three microphones that we're going to look at in today's video. One of them is going to be the one that I'm using right now. This is from Electro-Voice is the company that makes this. This is the RE320. This is considered a professional microphone in the music world and for podcasters. It's also comparable to the SM7B. That is a Shure microphone that is kind of the industry standard. If you watch someone doing a professional radio show or podcast, there's a pretty good chance that they're using an SM7B, again, very equivalent to this RE320. I just happen to prefer this one a little bit better for my voice, my tastes, and I think the sound is a little bit better, just for my preference, than the SM7B, but both extremely good microphones. Then we're going to also talk about the Shure Mv7. So this one is a really cool microphone. This is, spoiler alert, the one that I'm going to probably be recommending to most people, have been for the last couple of months and will be for a little while longer. You'll get to hear what that one sounds like today. And then we're going to talk about the Blue Yeti. I technically have a mini Blue Yeti, or I think they call it the Blue Yeti Nano. We're going to talk about that one on the show today because a lot of beginning podcasters have the Yeti, maybe bought it many, many years ago. They're still selling them, of course. You may have a silver one or have seen the silver ones. They work very similarly, so we're going to talk about the Yetis since they're so popular and in a lot of people's podcasting ecosystems. I'm going to demo how each one looks and sounds, so let's take a peek. So since it's already plugged in, let's start off with the RE320. Now, this is a professional level microphone. This is not as simple as just plugging this into your computer and rocking and rolling. They sound awesome. This would go for an SM7B or any similar quality of microphone, but you're going to have to incorporate this into an audio interface, otherwise commonly referred to maybe as a mixer, some sort of extra device that's going to help process the sound, and then you could use a USB cable from that device into your computer. Yes, they do make some what are called XLR to USB converters, so you theoretically could turn this into a USB microphone, but those are still a little finicky, and I kind of like, if you're going to go with this professional setup, incorporating a mixer or an audio interface of some sort. So really, there's no downside from an audio quality perspective for these microphones, other than one thing that makes them so good is the proximity that you have to stay to the microphone. You'll notice I'm right on top of the microphone. If my beard were a little longer, the hairs would definitely be scraping on the microphone windscreen. So you have to stay within proximity. You will notice that if you don't have good mic discipline, you will immediately see a decrease in your audio quality. One example, if I just move off to the side a little bit, you're going to notice that that audio is no longer sounding very good. If I drop back a little bit further here, if I just am uncomfortable having a mic right in front of my face and I want it to be further away, still okay, still acceptable, but you can start to hear a lot more echo and room noise. Definitely want to stay close to microphones like this. Really, their only downside is expense. This is going to probably run you $300 to $500, depending on what pro-level microphone you go with. Then you're going to add in costs for fancy boom arms, the things that are holding this microphone together. You've got to then have the mixer, which might run a couple of $100s. So they can get expensive very quickly relative to what your investment might look like into your podcasting efforts. So that's the only really consideration. If everybody had limitless funds and tech problems were not a big deal, I would certainly push people in this direction a lot of the time. That's another thing to consider. There can be a little bit bigger learning curve from a technology standpoint with a microphone like this because you're involving a mixer and an audio interface. It's just more moving parts, more ways for things to go wrong. So you're probably looking at $750 to $1,000 investment just for one microphone, solid setup with mixer and everything else. Now, this is a great answer if you're going to have multiple people in your office on the show in an interview. So if you're going to buy 2 or 3 microphones and you're going to have a multi-person setup, that's where we start to move you into microphones like this. And with a mixer, it's going to be able to handle multiple microphone inputs. It's going to sound really good, especially when you have multiple microphones in the same room. You want to increase the quality of your microphones because if you have cheap microphones and a bunch of them in the same room, they start to have bleed over top of one another and it just doesn't sound as good in most setups. So this is a pro-level solution, and I typically push people in this direction if they're going to go with a multi-microphone setup. Now, let's see what it looks like if we go to the other end of the spectrum at the real beginner level. All right, so now we have the Yeti microphone plugged in. Like I said at the beginning, this is a Yeti Nano, so it's a smaller version of the normal Yeti microphone. You've probably seen like the big silver microphones. Sometimes they're black. This one I think is sort of a navy blue. One of the cool marketing things of the Yeti microphones, they made them in different colors, which is kind of cool. But you can tell pretty easily this is not the same quality of microphone as we were just using a few moments ago. This is a good microphone if you just want the cheapest thing out there. something that's, I don't know, maybe slightly better than just wearing like a little tiny microphone headset or a Bluetooth mic or just talking into your phone, and you just want it to be able to plug and play and be pretty simple, and you don't want to really spend over $100. It is kind of nice because it comes with its own stand, so you don't have to buy that separately. It's already hooked in there. So some people might like that part about it, although the stand is pretty small, and so I'm sitting just kind of normally in my chair, and it's already down kind of low, and I would typically want a microphone to be a little bit closer, maybe a little bit higher up, so it's getting a little bit more directionality in terms of my voice. The other thing that is tough with Yeti microphones is if you're not a pro and you don't understand these kinds of things, or you don't read the literature that comes with the microphone, which often happens, people talk into the Yetis incorrectly. So you notice on the other microphone, we were sort of talking into the tip of the microphone. With this one that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, you're going to kind of talk into it the traditional way that you would think about talking into a microphone, into the front end of the microphone. Well, on the Yeti, you don't do that. You talk into the side of the microphone in a way. Let me show you. So you'll notice the shape of the Yeti here, and even the way it comes and sits in the stand would almost think that you kind of, maybe do you turn it this way and talk into the tip of it like this? Well, you should be hearing quite the difference in audio, as I have now done that, because I'm not talking into the front of the microphone. I'm really kind of talking into the back and the top of it, but that's not where it's picking up. It's picking up on the front only. So the proper way to speak into a Yeti microphone is really kind of into the side of it, or I tell people into the face of the microphone. You want to kind of aim right above the blue logo, right above there into the face of the mic. And this is the same situation that you'll experience on the full-sized Yeti microphone as well. So if you're going to keep using a Blue Yeti microphone, please make sure that you're talking into the face of it. Now on that other microphone, I was also right on top of that mic. That's what you want for good audio quality. For the Yeti, it doesn't sound as good when you get right on top of it. Often it's overblown. It's a little bit hit and miss, and you kind of need to experiment with it. I'm going to try not to make a whole bunch of extra noises by holding it, but I'm going to talk really close into the microphone. And often it's just too much. The Yetis have a bit too much gain on them for this to sound very good, so maybe you're hearing a little bit of that difference now. So the Yetis are designed to be a little bit further away from your voice to pick up the audio well and properly. But whenever you get further from a microphone, you're typically going to introduce a little bit more echo and room noise. And most of the time, at least the clients that we're working with, they're not in professional recording studios. We do a good enough job to convert an office or a bedroom in a house or something like that, or the basement, into a recording setup. But the Yeti will amplify a bad room compared to a microphone like we used a moment ago, the RE320 or an SM7B. Instead of amplifying a bad room, they help you succeed in a bad room situation. So if you're already in your only option is really to record in kind of an echoey area, maybe with windows or a lot of glass in the room, or you don't have a lot of furniture, you're only going to compound that problem using a Yeti. It might be another reason why you want to go up in microphone quality. So that's something to be aware of on the Yetis. There's a few other things that I won't cover in this video that just kind of make the Yetis difficult for regular people to be able to use, even though they're supposed to be a pretty simple plug-and-play microphone. Just a couple of buttons on the back that can often get switched over to the wrong setting, and people forget to check that out and look at that. But in general, you can just tell that the audio quality, not quite as good. The next mic that I'm going to show you is where I direct most people to start out with these days, and even those who have been around for a while. If you've been using a Yeti, might be time to consider jumping up to this next microphone. Let's check it out. All right, so now we come to the Shure Mv7 microphone. I love this mic. It is a fantastic hybrid microphone that I would recommend to any podcaster probably starting out today, as well as seasoned podcasters. And I know I talked a lot about that really good microphone and how it was great for multi-microphone setups, and it's still the best if you want that. But this microphone, if you're going to have multiple microphones in a setup, is pretty nice because it's still really good quality, but more affordable. So you can have a 3 and 4 microphone setup, still sound really good, and save several hundred, maybe $1,000 or more dollars, depending on how many mics we're talking about. So it's a really cool microphone. It's portable. You can take it with you. It's flexible because it can adapt to different types of setups, and it sounds really good. It's the microphone that you're hearing right now is the Shure Mv7. It's a simple mic. When you order it in its base package, it comes with this little tripod here on the bottom that you can see. It's a little bit more sturdy and wider of a base than that Yeti was a few moments ago. I actually find that to be a slight detriment, just because the pedals, if you will, of the feet of this tripod come out pretty big, and most of us are recording, at least a lot of the time, we're recording with a keyboard in front of us and a mouse and maybe limited desk space. This thing takes up a little bit of ground. I even tried elevating it on some other surfaces earlier, and I don't know. I'm not as big a fan of these like tripod legs. I do kind of like a more of a circular base. So if it were me, I'd probably throw this away if I was using this microphone consistently and I was using it at the desk, and I would mount it to a boom arm like we were using earlier for the big microphone over here. Or I would just find an alternative option for mounting the mic, just because I typically don't like desktop microphones in most setups personally. But anyway, that's what it comes with. It's got this neat little U-shape that helps isolate the microphone, this U-shape here. It's not a very good shock mount, but it does prevent some of the bumps that you might have in the table and vibrations from going into the microphone. There are certainly better ones out there if you want to get serious about accessories. Right now I'm recording about 3 or 4 inches away from the microphone, so you can see how it kind of sounds. If you get on top of the microphone, still maintains really good recording quality. It doesn't degrade, kind of like we see happen in the Yeti sometimes. And this microphone actually has some pretty amazing performance even from further back. So getting close to a foot away from the microphone now, I'm usually not displeased even if we're that far away from the mic. It's not what I would prefer, but it's still really not that bad at all. It does have some really cool, simple ways to change the settings on this microphone. Here on the top. I won't go through them here on this episode, but just to know that that's where you would adjust various settings like headphone volume, microphone volume, things like that. You can also use an app on your computer or even your phone to manage settings on this microphone too. Bells and whistles I don't usually get into. I like that you can just plug it and rock and roll, but it's got some fancier stuff that you can do with it if you so desire. So honestly, it's a good looking microphone, it sounds good, and it's a great price point. I see the prices for some of the packages with boom arms all in under $300, $200 if you're looking for more, maybe just the microphone. It's a great microphone that sounds good, and it's an affordable microphone. So it's going to be more expensive than a Yeti that's going to run you probably something more like, $99, maybe a little less if it's on sale. But this one's going to be about $250 for the mic and the tripod, and then add a little bit more if you want to get some sort of boom arm to go along with it. But still, it's well worth the cost. You don't have to then also get a mixer like you would with the bigger microphone. So for someone just starting out with a solo podcast, or you're going to be recording remotely with someone else, you can plug this into your PC, your Mac, mobile laptop, whatever it may be. I think they even work on iPads, so you've got some flexibility there. They sound great, and they're just really easy to use. You can plug your headphones into the bottom of the mic so that you've got all your controls right there in front of you, and it's really good quality. So I think you'd like it. It's the one that I recommend to people usually starting out these days. So just a quick recap. If you are wanting the most basic entry level, you don't care how it sounds, you just want the cheapest thing, plug it in, it works, and you'll kind of, make your way through the mistakes of using the microphone. Go with something like the Blue Yeti. You can use a lot of these kinds of microphones. It's probably on the equivalent of like a gaming microphone. Maybe your kids use a microphone for, they're talking on games. That's kind of the quality you're going to get out of that. It's going to be your cheapest option. If you want to go with something just a little bit higher quality for a small bit of extra investment, but is going to be really versatile and really probably the right one for your situation, Shure Mv7 is the right one to go with these days. Highly recommend that one. And if you need multiple microphone setups, you want something really high quality and professional, you can go with like an RE320 or that SM7B that's really popular, of course. Just be prepared to get into, 1,000 plus, depending on how many microphones you're going to get for a setup like that. We're happy to consult with you on what your best equipment setup is. Part of working with Third Wheel Media is in our onboarding process. We talk to you about your budget, about the equipment that's going to be the best for your situation, and help make you make the right choices for your podcast or YouTube videos. So get in touch with us if you have any questions. You can go to talkwithwalt.com. That's talkwithwalt.com to schedule a time to meet. Link in the description of today's show. Thanks for tuning in to the YouTube video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more of this content and support the channel. On a future video, we'll dive into talking about maybe some other alternative microphone options. We'll talk about headset microphones, can you get by with one that, an assistant might wear while they're fielding phone calls and that sort of thing with a little microphone coming out? Or what about the broadcasters that you see in sports? Their headsets, could you use one as a small business owner, as a podcast host? We'll go through those options. We'll talk about lavalier microphones at some point as well. Is it worth it getting the little clip-on ones instead of using a big bulky microphone like this? And why you really want to avoid just using a webcam microphone or just your built-in laptop microphone. Spoiler alert, they just don't sound very good. So that's it. We'll talk to you again next time right back here on the Third Wheel Media YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.